Hey Terraformers, it's Andrew Brown and we are back for another video. And this time what I want to do, make my head as big as I can here, but what I want to do is set us up for some nested modules. I think it's really important to teach this as early as possible because the sooner we start using nested modules, the easier it's going to be for you when using Terraform. And also to understand the complexities or challenges with modules, which aren't that hard, but if you skip them, it becomes very difficult to understand later down the road. So what we're going to do is go over to our project, and basically I want to set up the directory structure that we're going to use for modules or for our single module, because that's all we're going to be creating here today. We're going to go here. I'm going to set up a new one. We're going to call it module. So we'll just say, because we're creating, it's Terra Towns, we're creating a Terra House. So this will be like AWS Terra House module. Terrahouse module, okay? And we'll go ahead and we'll set up directory structure, set up for our module, and then we'll port our S3 bucket into the module, okay? And so what we'll do is go ahead and create that ticket. We will branch off of that, so create that branch. And now what we're going to do, once we have that branch there, we do, good. We're gonna go and launch that up and start setting up that structure. Go ahead and launch Git pod. Now, while that is launching, let's go take a look at our documentation and take a look at directory structures for modules, because we saw that it was there just a moment ago. If we go over here and we scroll on down, it talks about somewhere in here about modules. And so they recommend to, you don't have to, but they suggest to have a modules directory, and then you can nest them in there. You have to have that README file. You should have variables, main, and outputs in them. And that's what we're going to be doing as well. So over here on the left-hand side, we'll create a new folder, call it modules. We're going to call our module Terrahouse AWS. And just so you know, when I originally did this, and this is a private repo, I actually implemented it for all the providers, but we're only doing AWS here today because I do not have validators for all the other ones. And that's why we're just keeping it simple with AWS. So I want to make sure this is a folder. So we'll type in Terrahouse _ AWS. We'll make a new file here. We'll have main.tf. We'll have a new file here. We'll call this variables.tf. We will have a output tf. What do they say? Outputs tf. We'll double check here for the structure. Yep. And so we now have our main files that we need there. We should have a README as well. README .md. And we don't have to put anything in the README, but if we do, we can decide that later. And you know, if you're going to publish this, you might want to have a license. So we'll just say license here. License, L-I-S-C-E-N-E. There we go. I'm just looking off screen how to spell it. Still didn't get it all the way in there. L-I-S-C-E-N-E. And so there we might want to have a license. I'm going to look up Anton's modules because he has a license in them, and I'll just grab those. Anton's known for making lots of Terraform modules, so it'll be easy to grab from Anton here. So this is the license. Yeah, we'll just grab the Apache license. I'm sure it's good. And we'll go back over here. It tells you what it is over here. So it says commercial use, no trademark, no liability, no warranty. So it's a pretty good one. So go ahead and save that and close that out. L-I-S-C-E-N-E. Still not confident with that, but it is spelled correctly. And so now we have the basis of our module. So what we want to do is go over to main.tf. We want to, well, we do want to bring this stuff over to here, but what I really want to do is I'm going to want to isolate in our infrastructure our bucket into, or anything that's related to storage. I'm going to want that in its own file, and everything related to delivery is going to be in its own file. And those are the two ones that I'm going to want to have here. I'm just going to adjust my diagram to have like an indicator here of a bar. Okay, so we have an idea there. I'm just going to get a new marker here. I'm just going to go here and we'll do a light blue. We'll just say storage on one side, and then the other side will be content delivery, so CDN. Okay, because I already know building out this project that we will need both of these structures here. I'm just going to put them to the right and the left here, the left and the right, so we know this is kind of where this stuff is going, this stuff is going there. This technically would be actually over here, more like that. I think so, yeah. But anyway, let's bring this down here a bit. We'll go back over to here, and I actually want to make a new file in here, and I want to call this one resource storage. Okay. Now we could do everything in the main file, but you know, it's up to you how you want to break up files. I find that when these files start to get really large, it can get a bit of a mess. You know what? Maybe we'll just hold it off on this for now, and we will introduce it when we actually need it. But I know it's going to get really messy really quick, okay? So let's go into our main TF. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. I'm going to paste it in here. Okay, that's step one. And so now our main TF is empty. That's okay. We're going to go into our providers TF. I'm going to go and cut this out of here. When you have modules, you are supposed to, well, maybe not on this level, but we will want to take our required parameters and move them in here. But when you make modules, you have to specify the providers within the modules. If it doesn't, it will probably throw an error at us and complain. So we're just going to be proactive and put it here for now. If you want to find out, leave it in here and don't put it in there and see that error if you want. So we'll place that over there. I want to leave the configuration, move it. I'm just trying to decide what I want to do here. I'm also just checking my older example because I, again, did this whole project here ahead of time. I just want to see what I had done for configuration. And yeah, it looks like I might have specified these. Well, we don't have random anymore. I don't even know if we have to even specify the database provider since we have nothing in it. Give me 2 seconds, okay? Okay, yeah, so I seem to have placed it in here in the main for the module, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, okay? And what we'll do is we will open this up and we'll paste this in here. I don't know if we talked much about this, but we can actually set values in here as well. And if we haven't, I'm just going to go and pull that up now. Terraform provider, browse providers. We'll go over to AWS. And normally this documentation is always in the start here. So I know we went through this, but you know, if we wanted to override values or put things in here, we totally could. So very often you will see things like, oh, I'm just trying to find the normal stuff. This kind of stuff here, right? And I believe we did this earlier. Okay. Right, so just understand that we can set those. I'm going to leave them blank. Yeah, I guess there's not much to say about that, to be honest. So yeah, we have that moved over there. We'll leave this top level in our main because we definitely want to keep that, or we just leave in the providers. That's totally fine as well. But this isn't specifying providers. This is just specifying backends. So I think what I'll do is I'll cut this out. We'll put this back in main. Okay, and we'll get rid of this because we're not really specifying any providers right now. We might later. No, we're not going to. We'll just delete that out there. Okay, and so we move those over to here. So we have our provider and our bucket. And yeah, I think I'm going to actually do that. I'm going to leave this alone. I know I'm so indecisive about this stuff. But another thing we need to do is move up our variables. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and grab these ones here. And I'm going to just cut them out. I'm going to paste them in here. Okay. And so we move this to variables. And we want to do our outputs as well. So I'll copy this. And I'll paste it in here. We'll delete the old one. Okay. So the question is, we move this stuff into these files. How do we reference them up here on this level, right? So the way it's going to work, and I'm just looking off screen here to my older example, so I don't have to figure it out in greater detail. But the way it works is that we can import modules within a resource. So if we say resource here, and I say, or actually I guess it's module. If we say module here, we can say Terrahouse. Terrahouse AWS in double quotations. And then under here, we can now import it and give it a source. So I'm just going to go here and say modules like that. And now what we can do is pass in any environment variables we need to pass through. So there's two that we set, which is user UUID. And then the other one is the bucket name. So we get those from our vars. So we'll just do that, bucket name. And we'll get this from there as well, user UUID. And so that's as simple as it is. You just specify the source like that. I think that if you are using them externally, it's a little bit different. Let's go look up the documentation, see what we can find. So say Terraform modules, overview. So sources, here we go. So there's a lot of different ways to source them. We are using a local path right now, but we could specify it from the registry. We could specify it from GitHub directly. There's a lot of different ways to source it. So what I'm going to do is just grab this one because this is relevant to what we're doing. And we'll go over to our docs really quickly here for week 1. And I'm going to go under here and we'll just say modules, Terraform modules. We'll say module sources. I want to paste this in here. Oops. Module sources. And the idea here is that we can specify where modules come from. So we'll hit paste. And we'll just say TF for Terraform. Or maybe just TF. And so we can specify, using the source, we can import the module from various places, e.g. locally, GitHub, Terraform registry. Okay. Notice that we are passing in our envars, our Terraform variables. Passing input variables. Go here and just take this. We'll copy this. Paste it up here. I'm going to take out these two. So here we can pass input variables to our module. The module has to declare these Terraform variables in its own variables TF. And that's what it does, right? So those are two things we learned. Another thing is Terraform module structure. A module should at least contain, or it is recommended to place modules in a modules directory when locally developing modules. But you can name it whatever you like. Whatever you like. So that's not like a hard rule. Okay, so we have this. Now the question is it going to work? So what we'll do is type in clear. I'm going to bump up the font because I can barely read it on my screen. We'll bring this over and we'll see what happens. So we'll type in Terraform init as we normally would, and we'll see if we get any errors here. Give it a moment. So Terraform is successfully initialized. We'll scroll on up here. So it says redundant empty provider block. So it says earlier versions of Terraform used empty provider block. Terraform has made some changes to the provider dependency selections recorded in the file. Review those changes. Redundant empty provider in the main TF file. Okay, if you control this module, you can migrate this to new declaration syntax by removing all of the empty provider AWS blocks, then adding or updating an entry like the following to the required providers in the module. Okay, so I'm not sure exactly what it's asking for. I didn't have this issue before. I'm not like super great at developing modules, like I can get them working for what I need to get them working for, but we'll go down below here and just read that again. So I guess it's suggesting that I don't need that empty block. We already have the source here, so maybe it's just saying take this out. And honestly, we don't have anything in it. Probably the reason why it's not doing that for me here in my old one is because I actually have some variables underneath. And so now we're getting less of an issue there. So it just says don't provide it if it's empty. So that's good enough for me. And what I'm going to do is do a Terraform plan and see if this works. Okay, we have an error. And what's the problem here? It's saying value of undeclared variables. And so it's saying it doesn't know about user UID and bucket name. And you might be saying, what are you talking about? We have them defined over here in the variables TF. Well, here's the thing. You have to define them at the top level as well. It's not just going to know about them. So even if you're passing them to modules, you still have to define them in here. And so what we can do is just go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now I'm not copying them exactly because the validations are already going to be applied at that lower level. And so I can just do something simpler and just provide things like this. So I can just say string, whoops, say type string. And same thing with the bucket name. Now, I don't know if we want to bring the descriptions over. Sometimes the descriptions will get loaded into things like maybe Terraform Cloud might display them for us as a friendly name to know what they are. I'm not really worried about them, but this is enough to satisfy this. So we'll go ahead and hit up and hit Terraform plan. Give it a moment. And so now it should work with no issue. So that is great, okay? So what we'll do is go Terraform apply, and we'll go ahead and make that new bucket. Great, and it looks like it's going to change it. We'll type in yes. It's going to go ahead and do that. It's usually pretty quick. It's thinking. We'll give it a moment, okay? There we go, it's created the bucket. So the only thing we don't see are the outputs. We saw that before in our older project. Let's type in Terraform output and see what outputs we get. There are no outputs found. Well, we don't have outputs here. There's definitely nothing here, but we have outputs here. So the thing is that outputs in a nested module, that's what it is because it's nested within this project, allows us to access these at our top level, but we still, if we want to get outputs, we're going to have to reference it from here to that other output. That is an important exam question, knowing how to access outputs from nested modules. So that's why we have that as an example. And in practice, you're going to deal with this quite a bit. So let's go ahead and access that. So we'll say output here. And for now, we'll just say bucket name. And I'm actually surprised we didn't put a description on there, but we definitely can. So bring this down and say description, description equals bucket name for our static website hosting. Okay. And then we'll provide the value. So to get this, we're going to type the word module. That's how we're going to access module variables or outputs, I should say. Terraform, or not Terraform, Terrahouse. There we go. And it'll autocomplete the bucket name. And so now we should be able to get it. Let's type in clear, clear, Terraform, Terraform, I keep typing Terraform. Let's just type in TF plan. And you know, I was just remembering there's a command, I think it's gone now, but there's a replacement called Terraform Refresh. I think that's what I wanted to show you in the configuration last. Terraform Refresh command reads the current settings from all managed remote objects. This command is deprecated, but now you can do refresh only. So this is a case where your resources change, but you want them to change locally. And we didn't cover that in the last video, so we might have to circle back to that, okay? That was the thing that was missing. I'm gonna go update that in our docs right now so we don't forget. So we'll go to 1 here, and we had something here for this, yeah, fixed manual configuration. So I know it's deprecated, but we're going to just go ahead and grab this and place this in here. We'll have to come back to this and show it at some point. I just don't want to forget about it, so I'm just going to place it in here quickly. Okay, so back down below here, it's going to change that output. It shouldn't deploy anything, it's just going to change that. And so now if we do Terraform outputs, well, we didn't deploy that, so let's say auto approve. TF apply hyphen auto approve. Give that a second. There we go. And so now we have our outputs. We can type in Terraform outputs or Terraform output. And there we go. So very important stuff to understand is how do you get stuff into modules, right? And how do you get stuff out of modules? And so that you need to remember is this module thing that you can access it that way. And then inputting, you have to make sure the variables are defined in the nested module, but also at the top level. So hopefully that is very clear. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to the structure right now. We are going to break up at least into a couple files, the resources here, because it's going to get really messy really quick. But again, we should probably wait until we're ready for it. Yeah, in this file here, it's very small right now, but we're done here. And let's go and look if we need to do any documentation. So I don't think we do. I think we documented enough here. But I'm just going to go double check. Like we could talk about the directory structure, but yeah, I think that's fine. So what we'll do is we'll go add all of this here, and we are in 25. So we'll say 25 refactor S3 bucket into the new Terrahouse module, AWS module. Great, and we're going to go ahead and commit those. I'm going to go back up to the top here. I'm going to go over to pull requests. I'm going to create a new pull request. Before we proceed, did we tear down our infrastructure? Terraform destroy. Auto approve. I think it's okay for us to proceed with the pull request while that's happening. We'll go back over to, where is it? Here it is. Yeah, and so we'll drop this down. We'll go to 25. We'll be into main. We'll hit create pull request. We'll create our pull request. But you see how fast we're going? It's very easy for us to make mistakes. If this was a company, this would take a lot longer because there'd be so many people checking along the way. We're going to squash and merge those changes. I'm going to go back here. That resource was destroyed, so we don't have anything running in the cloud anymore, which is great. We're going to go and check out main now because that's been merged in. So git checkout main. Hopefully this is becoming muscle memory for you now. Git pull just in case. We'll go to code. We are on version 1.20. So this is going to be git tag 1.30, git push tags. There we go. We'll stop our workspace. I'll see you in the next one. Okay. Ciao.